The big story this evening, this deal, if it goes through, will be among the top M&A deals of this year. After being spurned once, Bharti is back wooing MTN. As per initial overtures, Bharti will acquire 49% in MTN. For 36%, it is offering 86 Rand per share and also issue 0.5 newly issued GDRs for every MTN share acquired.
It is a complicated deal, Harsha. In return, MTN will acquire a 36% economic interest in Bharti, and they could eventually hike this further. For 25%, it would offer $2.9 billion in cash and new shares that equals about 25% of the currently issued shares of MTN. Talks will be exclusive, that is till the 31st of July. So on What's Hot Tonight, we ask, will this deal finally go through? Joining us from London is Bundeep Singh Rangar of IndusView Advisors. But first up, here's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Let's go across now to our senior editor, Siddharth Zaravi. He joins us now with some exclusive details on who will hold the reins of the Bharti-MTN entity if the merger does indeed go through. Siddharth, what are you picking up?
At this point, once the first stage transaction, which is the equity two-way transaction, once that takes place, the two entities will move full steam ahead for a merger. Now, once this merger happens, the key issue before that is that the companies will virtually be run separately by the existing management. Of course, there will be synergies and sort of taking together of whatever bits need to be done. But post that, Sunil Mittal is expected to be the executive chairman of this multinational telecom company, which will span several geographies, at least 4 geographies and 23 countries in terms of operations, 200 million subscribers, $20 billion plus in revenues, and therefore a company which will continue to expand both in India and overseas. In terms of who will manage it on a day-to-day basis, likely that there will be 2 CEOs. Manoj Kohli, existing head of the mobile operations in the company, Bharti Airtel, joint managing director and CEO, will continue to have a dominant role within the India and the Asia geography, while Putuma Nelko, who is currently the CEO of the MTN, will play an equal role, an enhanced role perhaps, in the operation. I would understand that above this there could be a chairman of the board, but we do not have clarity of who that will be. But clearly Sunil Mittal will move out of day-to-day operations, be the executive chairman of this new merged entity, and therefore continue to lead and expand the company into new geographies. Shireen?
All right, Siddharth Zaravi, many thanks for joining us and taking us through those exclusive details. Let's go across now to Bundeep. He joins us from London. Bundeep, what do you make of the Bharti-MTN deal? This is not the first time around that the two are talking. The earlier attempt, both parties walked away. We understand because MTN was perhaps unwilling to let go of control. Also, there was the matter, or small matter, of a competing offer from Reliance Communication. Now, how different is it going to be this time around to your mind, given what you've heard so far?
I think if you come around the second time, you've learned from the mistakes the first time, and you're second time lucky. So the chances of this going through are far greater than the last time.
Why does Bharti need to do this transaction, Bundeep? Does MTN need this deal more than Bharti does, or is this going to be mutually beneficial?
It's completely mutually beneficial, because if you look at the global landscape, you've got competitive threats from the Western telcos, and you've got the emerging markets telcos, so you've got to get scale and you've got to get growth. So if you had 100 and 100 million subscribers in Africa and India, you've got 2 very high growth markets consolidated to 2 of the leading operators in both markets. It's a win-win for both.
Well, that is right. 200 million subscribers is what the merged entity will have. But on that point, Bundeep, MTN has made it explicit that a broader strategic objective would really be a full merger of MTN and Bharti. That's the second step. That's not the first step. That was what was envisaged as a first step deal the first time around when the talks broke down. Do you actually expect that to happen this time?
I think that depends to some degree on not just what the corporate intent is, but also the political landscape is. There's sensitivities around selling the crown jewel of South Africa and the African telecom space, and certainly there's FDI restrictions, even though they've been lifted in the past couple of years to make this transaction possible. There's still certain ceilings there to adhere to. So a full-blown merger may or may not happen, but certainly 49% in MTN and 36% in Bharti for each of the other companies is pretty good as it gets, so for now.
To your mind, Bundeep, what are the synergies of this transaction and what will work in Bharti's favor?
Well, I think one of the things that it gives them a way for sharing costs, that's infrastructure costs, Your roaming tariff could be lower, at least from a cost perspective, and you can have much better purchasing power when it comes to suppliers, be it Ericsson or Nokia or certain similar telco providers. So you get purchasing power, you get pricing power, and you get the ability to lower your costs by sharing them. So that's the biggest advantage. Over time, of course, you want to increase your subscribers in two high-growth markets, and following that, you want to increase your ARPU, which is the revenue per subscriber, to therefore monetize your network.
Right, Bundeep, just a moment ago you talked about the possible political backlash. We saw that play out the last time around, but do you envisage any other regulatory hurdles that may sort of come in the way of this transaction from being consummated?
Not at the moment. I think one of the key reasons why this deal is happening now as opposed to a few months ago was the fact that you've got a very stable government in India which is more likely to be pro-FDI and lifting up restrictions for foreign entrants and allowing for such transactions, because for companies such as Bharti to grow outside India's domestic growth, they have to grow in international markets, and a place like Africa is one of the last few growing areas for telco.
Bundeep, this is a complicated arrangement, a 49% stake from Bharti to MTN, MTN picking up a 36% stake. It's a cash plus stock arrangement. What's your view on how it's been valued?
I think it is pricing in growth from both sides, but it's also pricing in the fact that you'll need cash for growth, you'll need cash for investment. So I think this mutual cash and share deal is very reflective of both imbibed in the price growth for both the telcos and the fact that there's going to be capital investment required for growing. So it's a fair price.
All right, a fair price, Bundeep Singh Rangar. Many thanks for joining us with your initial comments as far as the Bharti-MTN talks and the possible deal is concerned. And of course, thanks very much for joining us from London. Meanwhile, Cabinet Minister Kamal Nath has welcomed the merger talks and said the deal represents a meaningful partnership which will further improve India-South Africa relations.
Well, it's